Here's this trade offer that was suggested by one of our great listeners, Mark. Want to run it by you. I initially loved the idea, but then Stoke talked me out of it, and I kind of saw the wisdom of his ways. The offer is this. The proposal is this. The Broncos take their 20th pick, first-round pick, 20th overall, throw in maybe, a fifth-round sweetener or something like that, to the New York Jets for wide receiver Garrett Wilson, who was a 10th overall pick. He's played 3 years in the NFL. He's never missed a game, and each year he's gone up in catches. He had 101 this year. He's been over 1,000 yards in all 3 seasons. My initial thought was, hey, yeah, do it. But then, Stoke, you talked me out of it, and you made some good points. So go ahead, summarize those.
Oh, I said no, Mark, because first of all, Garrett Wilson, if you trade for him, you're going to have to pay him, right? Because you don't want a guy that you just traded for to come here and not be happy, right? And right. So you don't want one of those receivers coming here. And so if you make the trade, you have to obviously understand that you're going to have to now pay this guy, I don't know, $30 to $35 million a year. And so I don't think it fits with the direction we're heading. And I'm trying to find a young stud at 20. Whether it be a safety, a pass rusher, inside linebacker, tight end, running back, somebody like that at 20. A young guy on a rookie contract that we can keep control of for 5 years, and I don't want to miss out on that. So I don't think paying a lot of money to a wide receiver, he's not the biggest of guys. Now, to Mike's point, he's stayed healthy, and he's played in every game, and his stats are really good. But I just don't think it fits of what we're trying to do right now in this situation.
Completely agree with you, Stoke. I don't think it fits. One, you've got a bunch of young wide receivers that you're developing on your roster right now. So those guys that you drafted, the Franklins of the world, the Mims of the world, we're going to quit developing those guys because this guy comes in. And this guy is still, even though he puts up a lot of production, still raw from a route running standpoint. There's a lot of things to his game that needs to be cleaned up. A lot of that is because he plays for the Jets. And so, you've got to train him in that fashion. But still, I think from a cap standpoint, you don't want to bring that cap value on there. And then ultimately, like Stokes said, you need to keep on building. What they've done in the draft last couple of years, to me, shows that they've got a good feel for what they're trying to accomplish in the draft. So I'm more about keeping that pick and continue to build this roster.
Just how much, Stoke, are you willing to go out and invest in a wide receiver? And I ask that specifically because with your background as a receiver, when you look at what they've got in the young guys, I'll put Sutton aside for a second, but what they have in Mims, Franklin, Vele, do you see enough upside for these guys, let's say over the next 2 years, that maybe they don't need to invest heavily in a wide receiver, either through free agency or a draft pick?
No, it's still a priority. It's but it's not at the top of the list. But if you see great value, if you see a guy that projects to be, really good, you take him. But when you talk about list, running back, tight end, then receiver. So that's where receiver is on my list right now of off-season things the Broncos need to figure out and try to accomplish. So, no, but certainly I'm not letting Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, and Devon Vele and a aging Cortland Sutton get me to not select a wide receiver that I think is going to be a really good player.
You don't see number one wide receiver potential with any of those 3 guys? Franklin, Mims, Vele.
No.
Okay.
I mean, like top-tier guys? No, I don't see
somebody
that.
that you would say that's my number one receiver.
Do you?
No, but
okay.
I consider you bile coming up through my throat. I consider you the expert.
Yeah. Well, and so does everyone else. So you're not the only one. That's why I said it first.
That's why
Glad you agreed.
That's why I asked the question. Mark, that was very painful for me.
Yeah, well, I understand that.
Kind of like when we talk about the offensive line. I'm forced to admit, well, you are an expert.
Yeah, but I'm with Stoke on that. You don't see that number one guy or somebody that's going to develop into a number one guy. But I am a big believer when it comes to the draft and you're building a football team. Listen, if you get to 20 and far and away, remember, Justin Jefferson was drafted at 24? I think Rager was drafted ahead of, right ahead of him.
Yeah.
One pick ahead of him, something like that. So listen, if the best player on your board happens to be a wide receiver at 20, and you think that guy's got all-star potential, you take him. You take him.
But I do think you make a good point about Garrett Wilson. As intriguing as that sounds, you're giving up a valuable pick and a lot of money for a receiver. And if in a perfect world you could just scratch a big check for T. Higgins, great, do it. Then you still have your pick.
Right.
But you're taking two valuable ways to build up your football team, and you're using them both on one player.
A lot of resources into a wide receiver.
Yeah, that's you're right. That's too much. That's too much. Is there anything that you could do for Garrett Wilson that you would say, okay, how about a second and a fourth? For
Sure.
Garrett Wilson?
Now you start thinking about it.
Second
certainly.
and third.
You start thinking about it. But again, I don't want to say I'm totally out because Garrett Wilson's a good football player. I mean, look at his first 3 years. That's pretty dang good. I don't want to overpay for a wide receiver right now. I don't want to commit that type of cap room. We're just getting out of cap purgatory, and we still got a $30-something million dead cap hit next year. So I kind of want to tread lightly there. There's other resources, there are other things that we do need to accomplish also. So that's why I'm hesitant to spend draft capital plus, sign him to a contract where he's making 30 to 35 a year.
Sounds like Joel Klatt's starting to make an impression on you about how wide receivers just aren't that important.
Elite. Call.
No comment.
Ooh, no comment.
No comment.
That no comment speaks volumes.
No, I've always been in the camp of, when George Payton signed Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton to those big contracts, I didn't like it.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, no, you're right.
And you signed one, you let the other one go and pick one. So I didn't like that approach. I don't want to overpay here. Now, if you got a premier one, if you got a Chase, you're paying those guys, okay? But other than that, especially when you have a lot of other areas that you need to address, and for me, there's others positions offensively that are more of a priority.
Okay, one more here before we keep moving along here. Is it just me, but you guys may be onto something with CU and money when it comes to Deion? The athletic department is in financial trouble despite what Joel Klatt says. They even emailed me recently to meet for coffee or lunch to talk about, quote, how I could make an impact, and I'm a tiny donor. They're desperate. Rick George has radically mismanaged the financial part of his job, and Deion knows it. Whew.
Wow. We got some breaking news, some insider info there.
A little insider info. They'd love to do lunch. Let's do lunch.
Who's paying for the lunch?
Who's paying for the lunch?
He
Yeah.
is.
Sounds like, the tiny donor's going to have to pay for lunch.
That's right. Rick George forgot his wallet. Oh, I'm sorry.
I got alligator arms. Jeez.
It's like a song. You're my tiny donor for CU, and he's spare change will do.
Well done, Mark.
I know. He's always been able to do that,
He's
right?
good. That's really good.
It might be his
Very
greatest
talented.
talent.
Very
Might be his
talented.
greatest talent.
Never knew that.
It might be his number one greatest talent besides knowing the roster of the Carolina Panthers inside.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. I don't know. We'll see what this thing looks like moving forward. But I think every college is like, they're knocking on doors. They're calling constantly because it's the never-ending cycle of NIL. You give $1 million this year, we need $1 million next year.
Yep.
Now we need $1.5 million. You give, $5,000. Hey, can you give $10,000 this year? I mean, that's why I hate NIL.
What did I see? Quinn Ewers,
nonstop.
Quinn Ewers, the Texas quarterback, reportedly was offered $8 million to transfer.
Why would he not
another
transfer
school.
to another school? He's going to
But
be
he wants
a second round
He says
pick.
he either wants to stay at Texas or go pro. So
Well, they're not going to let him stay at Texas. We don't want him at Texas anymore. Time to go. Shorty got to go. Arch time.
time for Arch.
Time for Arch.
Time for Arch.
time. So
You're going to be spending a lot of time in Austin, aren't
Oh,
you? Cupboard's
whoa.
kid, right?
Home away from home. Back in Austin. Daddy's home. I did go last year. I went to a game last year.
Yeah. Okay.
You did to Austin?
Yeah, I did. His first start. Down there with my crew.
Yeah, were you down there with all right?
I'm not rolling solo.
Were you there with all right?
My best friend Peyton Manning.
I didn't connect with him.
You didn't see Matthew?
I didn't connect with him.
Who'd you go with? Did you went on your own?
Who do you think he went with?
I don't kiss and tell. I'm not you, Mark.
That's what I love. That's what I love about you, Stoke.
You may
You're
not-
not giving up any trade secrets over there.
Yeah, you may not kiss and tell, but you kiss something. That's for sure.
Oh!